Hello. Domo said he can't be here today and tomorrow. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on perspective. It is just me. So hello everyone. But as promised, we are talking about the NBA draft because that is the most important thing in the NBA coming up for the foreseeable future. So yeah, we'll see Domo next Tuesday, hopefully. So Domo will still be talking about the draft then anyway. It's fine. But yeah, I want to start talking about the draft, obviously. Who we think is gonna go number one, number two, number three, all of the above, because I'm hearing a lot about how Alex Sarr isn't trying to go to Atlanta. I know there's some Atlanta fans who ain't happy about that. Apparently he's been hard to get for a workout, so maybe he's trying to tank his draft stock. I don't know. Maybe he realizes Houston's where it's at. It appears Ricochet is going to be he's like a lock top two. So if he goes Atlanta, if he doesn't go Atlanta, he'll probably go Washington. Reed Shepherd is likely at 3 unless Alex Sarr does fall. And then obviously we've got San Antonio at 4, Detroit. So like we could just talk about a bunch of different prospects, really. I mean, I'm just here for the vibes. I'm just here for the vibes, bro. And we will be going to playback too in 50 minutes. So once we go to playback, we can actually watch some of these guys too, which will be ideal. Just being able to watch some of these prospects, see who's good, see who's bad, see who's not good, all of those things. Let's bring some people up. We got hello everyone.
How you doing?
Oh, real quick, hold on. There's drink more water in the chat. But yes, and any of you guys have any thoughts on the draft for your team, not for your team, just players in general? Just what's you guys' thoughts on the draft coming up? And then yeah, so go ahead if you have any thoughts.
Honestly, just a quick question, Morris.
Okay.
Where do you think Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to get drafted to?
Mm.
Because before his case, he was projected to be a top 10 player. Now, because even though he was found innocent, they still got him a drop to about the mid picks in the first round.
I didn't know he was projected to go top 10. I thought he was projected like lottery, but I think him being older, I think he's 23, I think 23, 24. Him being older, not being much of a playmaker defensively outside of, I mean, still valuable. Outside of that, question marks. The measurables aren't great. Late first, I'd expect late first. Maybe a team like the Knicks. I don't know. Late first. I doubt he'd go seconds, but maybe early seconds. I'd be shocked if he went top 20. I'd be shocked, but not because he's not a good player. Just the age and then his skills. How does that translate to like teams in the late lottery, late teens? I just think late first is probably where I'd project him. Without the false accusations, I think I'd probably still have him in the late first, probably. So this is about where I'd have him anyway. But it is crazy that he could just get falsely accused like
What's
that.
his like skill set? Like, what does he do?
He's a scorer.
Oh, okay.
He's a pure scorer.
What team needs that though? Let me see.
That's why I'm because of his age. Like he's similar to like they don't play similarly, but it's like similar questions of like Dalton Connect in terms of they're old and they're scorers. And like the ceiling is how much better do you think they're going to get? But at least with Dalton Connect, you know he has this floor spacing. That's like even if he is a role player, we have a floor spacer guaranteed. Terrence is more scorer than shooter. Dalton is a shooter who can score. So I think that's why Dalton is viewed in higher regard than Terrence Shannon is, alongside
the reason why I asked that, Mars, is like I think, in my opinion, even though like this draft has been deemed not as talented, I think it has potential to be a good draft for at least the competitive teams. The teams who are typically in playoff contention that has the late round picks. I think a few jewels going to drop toward the bottom. That's why I mentioned his name. I think he has possibility to be one of those jewels. Like if Denver somehow get him, he gives them a good 10 to 12 points off their bench. That's a plus. You know what I mean? So
I heard Denver are looking at Deron Holmes. That's what I heard. Well, that's what I've seen. Yeah. So Deron Holmes, I doubt he's falling that far. But if he does, that would be a great pick for Denver. But yeah, anyone have any thoughts on prospects right now on the scene? I mean, anyone?
Well, I'll say this one thing because I'll be honest, I'm not. I don't really stay tuned with the NBA draft. I'm more of an NFL draft guy. But I'll say this, of course. You know, I wasn't here Tuesday, so I'll say congratulations, Celtics, of course, for winning the finals. You know, good stuff right here, man. Good stuff. You know, shout out Joe Mazzulla, shout out Brad Stevens, shout out my dog Jaylen Brown. All that, all good stuff over there. You know, they deserve it. I do have a question for some of y'all draft nerds up here. From what I'm looking at, from the kind of the people who have a draft pick and the kind of outlook of the NBA draft as of right now, like Sturdy said, it's kind of seemed or deemed a not great draft. Do we think any of these players around the top 10 in the lottery, do we think any of them can contribute to a winning type team? The only team that I feel like can make a jump from what I just looked in the lottery is like Memphis, because Ja will be back, obviously.
The Pistons
and Houston. I forgot. Yeah, Houston too. So do we think Houston or Memphis can grab somebody that can contribute immediately from this draft?
What picks they got?
3 and 9.
3 and 9.
Houston got 3.
Yeah.
Memphis might win a championship.
I was gonna say also, I think depending on if they still want to pick Star, Atlanta can also go up. But that's just me.
Yeah, but yeah.
You spin.
There's questions about Star. A lot of questions in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah, I think Houston trying to be as objective as possible. I think Reed Shepherd provides the thing that Houston need most, which is shooting. Probably the best shooter in the draft. Probably just if not top 5 easily. Ability
3-point shooter or 3-level shooter or two level mid.
He can't he's a predominant 3-point shooter, but he's a good jump shooter. Period. Like mid range 3, off movement, off the dribble, NBA range, all of it. So he provides shooting, which is the team's probably most drastic needs. But he's also he's a good secondary playmaker, makes good solid decisions. Defensively, now his size is a concern for me defensively, but he's a high effort defender. So he's not a bad defender because I don't think he's a bad defender. I don't think he's going to be a bad defender in the league due to a lack of effort. I think if he is a bad defender, it's because of his a size mismatch. And I think Houston have the necessary pieces long term to where his defense won't be as much of a problem, especially if he's not in the role where he's a primary, which I don't think he will be, which is why I think Reed Shepherd can help the team a lot if Cam Whitmore continues to develop as a shooter and Jabari, and if Jalen Green can become a shooter, and then you just have Alpi and a man who can't shoot, and you still got Tari there. They can hide him defensively. He provides shooting, can play off the ball, on the ball, all of those things. Reed Shepherd will be great. And at 9, I don't know what Memphis want. I'm hearing they want a big. I don't know, but they can make a good pick at 9 if they get it right. Or they could trade up. They got pieces they could trade up too. So Memphis can make a good pick, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also gonna ask, you think, because you said that Sar's not like practicing with the Atlanta team or anything like that, do you think Sar is trying to do the funny and also pair up with another Frenchman in San Antonio for the 4th pick?
I highly doubt he'd fall to 4. No matter what he did, I highly doubt he'd fall to 4. But I do. If what I heard, if what I'm seeing is true, that he's not trying to work out for the Hawks, I think at worst he just goes to the Wizards.
Yeah.
Like,
he's just
going to end up going 2. I highly doubt he's going to fall to Houston at 3, and if he does, I think we take him, guaranteed. So I think he's just going to end up being. I think the top 2 picks are going to be the 2 French people. So,
I feel like whoever ends up on the Wizards is going to be labeled a bust.
Badge.
There is no saving that team.
Might be the worst franchise.
They're just a little way away, but I mean, they can they're player development.
Unless it's like a pure scorer who doesn't give a shit about team play, maybe. But we're talking about
that's not Alex Sarr.
That's the like if you're a player that's supposed to be like good in 5-on-5 situations, I don't think the Wizards are going to make you look good. That's not the team to go to. Maybe the Pistons would be a better bet team to fall to.
You spit right now.
But I mean, at least they have paid creating something. If you're going to a team like the Wizards,
Jordan Poole.
I was gonna ask the question about Jordan Poole. I was gonna ask, like, do you guys think that team can improve as a team with Jordan Poole there and still try to get players like from drafting while he's on that team, or do you just develop him more as a point guard?
Jordan Poole, you got a lot of background noise, so can you fix that, please? Thank you. Yes, I had to mute you because background noise was bad. Wait, what was the question? Sorry, I was
asking. I'm like, do you think that Washington can move on and progress their team with Jordan Poole on that team while drafting young talent because of his play style? Do you think that they would have to just change him into a point guard?
They started using him as a point guard to end the season.
Yeah, and I think it was pretty
helped.
Yeah, so I think Jordan Poole's what, 23?
23.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you can progress with Jordan Poole. Now, do I think the ceiling is necessarily high? Not really, but I think you can progress with Jordan Poole. I think they have very good young players who will be great role players on good teams.
I like Denny Avdia.
Bilal
a lot.
I'm trying to free Denny. I'm trying to free.
I think he's a really good
a contender against Denny is going to be. Oh my god, this guy. Oh my god, he's the missing.
Sounds
piece.
like a future Dallas.
I was thinking Dallas. Yeah.
Like that's like Dallas. A team against Denny, they're gonna be very lucky. Bilal was the only player on that team right now I think is very high upside. Bilal, if Bilal pans out to like the ultimate potential that he has, he's the building block of their team, in my opinion. And whoever, and if they manage to get Alex,
I'm jumping ship on him.
They need that. They need that piece, in my opinion. And I think the only piece in the draft for them at number 2 is Alex Sarr. If they get Ricochet, they just got another good role player for a good team. So I think they need a piece. Jordan Poole isn't the piece, but you can build with Jordan Poole. I think they need a building block, and I think that starts with Bilal, and it starts with whoever they get at 2 if they make the right pick. I just don't know who's going to be available for them. I just hope it's Alex Sarr for their sake. His sake, but for their sake, yes.
But there's something I wanted to say, though, not just about this draft, because I haven't been closely following this draft, but mainly the last, 7-8 drafts. I've noticed the pattern that there's not much difference between, the 8th pick and the 38th pick. So why do teams give all of these second-round picks away for players that are not going to contribute? Like, I've been seeing in the last 2 years trades 5 second-rounders for a 9th man on the team. And I don't see why teams are doing this. If you're a top 5 pick in the draft, I understand why it would be desirable. But the value of a second-rounder, especially if it's 30th to 45th, is much higher than it used to be. There have been so many steals in the last 8 years compared to the past. Especially last 10 years, let's say 10 years. I think that the drafts have been deeper than ever. Every single draft is deep. Even the drafts that aren't top heavy are very deep. So why do teams give away second round picks so easily right now?
Mostly because a lot of times, at least from what I've seen, with first round picks, people are banking more on first round picks. The second round picks, while you are right, we have been seeing and sneaking more gems and stuff from the 30th to 45. They just, because I go to say the same thing when they gave up Sadiq for second rounders and stuff like that, but they just rather look for something more definite and they can bank more.
Those teams can't scout for real.
I'm gonna be honest. How many there's
how many
exceptions, but overall, a lot of people in the draft just don't pan out, and a lot of them in the second round just don't pan out.
No,
so,
there's 30 picks in the second round. If 4 of them pan out, are we saying I get
compared to the first round, guys? Really, just compared to the first round, the 11th to 30th versus 31st to 50th. Do you really think there's a huge difference in talent between the first 20 and the second 20? In the last 10 years?
Let's run it through. We can run. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I gotta say we can run through it, but what I was gonna say was in this draft, I think that it's the 10 to 30 that it's all the same type of players. Remember how we always used to say 1 through 5 and then going from 5 to 6, it's a big drop off. I think in this draft, not high end talent at the front end, 1 through 10, but I think this is a good mediocre draft from 10 to like 30, to where you can find key role players and 6 man of the years type. That's the problem. There's a lot of them. For example, I like Harrison Ingram as a second round sleeper, or Aaron Bradshaw from Kentucky because of his height. He can shoot, pick and roll. He could scramble. I like Harrison Ingram because he played in 2 different systems. He played in both Indiana and he also played for North Carolina. He's a pick and roll guy, high IQ. He's basically a good rebounder, can defend 1 through 3. So you can find him at like 38, 34. You could get him in the second round. You could even get a Ryan Dunn in the second round. So for me, I just think that the top end talent in this draft is 1 through 10, and then 10 to like 30, it's all the same. As opposed to
the teams that pick later in the first are teams that's competing usually.
Yeah.
So it's like, why am I going to take a risk on
moving up?
Why am I going to take a risk on picking this player or whatever when I can trade this pick to get a player who I know exactly what they're going to contribute? I know their profile. With this other player, I'm projecting what I think he's possibly going to be. Who did it? Royce O'Neal. Who was it that went for like 5 second rounds? Was it Gafford or Royce O'Neal? It was was it PJ? Somebody went for a lot of second rounds this year.
I think it was Gafford.
Was it not Jay Crowder or something like that?
I thought it was Jay Crowder, but
it was somebody else. It was PJ, Gafford, or Royce O'Neal.
I think it was Royce.
Like a bunch
Royce
of
went
seconds.
for a first round pick. That was
Royce O'Neal for 5 second rounders.
Somebody went for a bunch of seconds. I'm not tripping.
I mean, are you telling me to not find Royce O'Neal in the second round?
I think it was Gafford. Who do you think here? Who do you think in this draft is NBA ready today?
Like 5 seconds.
At the top or just in general?
In general, I think that there's totally like 10 players, 5 in the first and 5 in the late rounds that may get overlooked in the first that can actually be NBA ready. Most of these guys in this draft, I think, coming off the bench will need at least a year.
I haven't seen anybody
like Tristan De Silva. Look at Tristan De Silva. He's ready. He's ready, but here's the thing: the lack of defense, and he does a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, but I think some of that's because at Colorado he just had a bit more responsibility than he'll have in the league.
He did
same reason why I'm not really concerned about Ron Holland's turnovers. He's just not gonna have the ball in his hands as much.
I feel like he never really
right now and contribute. Reed Shepherd could come in right now. Klingon can come in right now and contribute.
I think Jared will be fine.
Dalton Connect, Devin Carter for the most part, I think. Tristan De Silva.
Yep.
I feel like these dudes' IQs is just really important.
Like,
like, you remember Jordan Poole?
I mean, Tyler Kolek could be a good backup guard for someone right now, I think.
Actually, Tyler Kolek, I don't think he's going to be a backup. I think he's going to start. And I say that because for Tyler Kolek, for me, he's short. So I look at him as like McBride. But the fact of the matter is him having 2.5 assists to 1 turnover is impressive, especially in college. So when he comes to the league, that's going to be impressive because he can look the pass, he can shoot, and he's quick off the dribble. So for me, his lack of defense, but his offense, the best passer in the league, he can generate for you. I think he could start. You think about it. You put him on a team like the Timberwolves, let's just say. The Timberwolves,
it depends. It depends.
He ain't got
depends on the situation.
yet.
He could start somewhere, but it depends on where he gets drafted, of course.
Yeah.
Alex, and I think Alex Sarr could come in and he'll be ready to contribute in the NBA, but he won't be close to his ceiling. So like he's NBA ready, but he's not what he's gonna be. So like in that regard, I mean, like he's still long term, but he's also good right now. I think, in my opinion. So
a lot of these guys are just very.
What about Ware? I don't think Ware's ready. I think Ware needs about a half a season or so.
I think he's gonna get stronger. But
and
the concerns about his motor, I mean, I don't know if it's motor issues or awareness issues. And I don't know which one is more concerning.
I think it's awareness, but I mean that can be fixed like a Sacramento system or something.
If it's motor issues, I don't know anyone who came in with a bad motor who developed a good motor. So there's a concern. If it's awareness issues, then he's just another big with questionable feel for the game, and that's a concern.
Who you know that got a bad motor in the league? That
bad motor
for a big. or
just for in general?
In general, the best motor.
No, just a bad motor.
Bad motor.
Oh,
Who do I
bad
watch?
motor?
Who do I watch? And I'm
Kyle
like,
Anderson.
Bad motor.
who do I watch? And I'm like,
Like a young person that has a
I
bad
don't
motor
really
right
think
now.
about bad motor. Who do I watch? And I'm like,
Like they just don't
DeAndre
look
Ayton's
good
a
at
bad
all.
Ayton for
But
sure.
wait,
Yeah.
hold on.
It got better this year though. It got better this
DeAndre
year.
can get you a 20 and 10 though. DeAndre can get you
Most
20
of the
and 10
year,
though with a
most
bad
of the year
motor.
he was not good.
Defensively, his
He got a
motor is
bid, though.
still egregious.
But
But
wait,
like,
hold on.
He has a bad
But as a
motor.
big though, DeAndre can get you 20 and 10. So even if he has a bad
Yeah,
motor,
with a bad
he's still
motor.
giving you 20 and 10 or like 15 and 10. He's still gonna give you something productive with a bad motor.
Wiggins has a questionable. Wiggins had a questionable.
That's this year though.
Yeah, he
If
had
Wiggins goes
Wiggins
to-
had a questionable motor this year.
That's this
Okay,
year.
Mars, let me ask you about Wiggins since you brought him up. If Wiggins go to the Knicks, would you still be questioning his motor?
I mean, I got to see how it goes. He's played for Tibbs before, and he had motor question marks in Minnesota. So
That's great. If
I mean,
Thibodeau couldn't fix it,
I don't know. Wiggins has gone. It seems like Wiggins has gone through a lot family wise, so I can understand his mind not fully being invested. So maybe if he is fully invested, he's back to
I'll give you Wiggins though, because even like earlier in his career, it was like he was a leading guy, but would give like the quietest like 20 to 25.
Yeah.
Like ever. Like I thought that made him good in Golden State once he just figured it out. Because like, you don't need him to lead the team.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'll say Wiggins.
Has a bad motor. Who? Luka.
No,
Defensive motor.
Defensive motor. Yeah, you could say that. I wouldn't push back too much. Yeah, that's play like having a bad motor doesn't mean you're a bad player, but
no, it's just
I do think it can hold you back. But I mean, if Kel'el Ware has bad awareness and bad feel for the game, that's also concerning. So that's why I don't think he's going to go in the lottery unless a team really buys into the upside, which is very high.
It's
but
very,
the concerns are glaring.
And you're going to be so mad because it's going to look like he doesn't want to shoot the ball, and then when he does shoot it, it's just money every time. And he takes like 5 shots.
Christian Wood. That's not a good thing. He reminds me of Christian Wood.
Oh, he can't go to Lakers.
Christian Wood.
bad, bro.
Yeah, and that,
that's a terrible motor, right?
the talent is very clear. But the motor is so questionable. And defensively, he's better than Christian Wood.
Mm-hmm.
But the motor is so questionable that I can understand teams having concern. But
Christian
I think his
Wood
motor
is
was
low-key
better this
just
year than it was at
stupid
Oracle.
also.
So.
Christian Wood is also just kind of dumb.
Yeah,
I mean,
Christian Wood
Well,
has
not
motor
dumb, but
and
I'm not
feel for
trying to
the
be
game.
mean, but
Yeah, his feel for the game is bad. He rotates bad too on defense. Like he's not great. He also
he has motor and feel for the game issues. I think that if Kel'el Ware has both, I think he turns into a Christian Wood. If he only has one, I think he could turn into a very good player.
Honestly,
And if he figures out both, then I think you've got an all-star caliber big. Doesn't mean
if it's those, you'd struggle to stay in the league.
Well, not like a Wiseman though. You know, I think Wiseman.
Wiseman is bad feel. Wiseman has bad feel.
Oh, just bad feel.
Terrible.
I think he just has bad IQ. I think his feel for the game is actually decent. It's just his IQ. He just doesn't know. Because feel for the game would mean you can't have a time where you just can't put up more than like 20 points. He's had games where he's had like 30 and stuff like that. When he knows he's just the only person on the court and he has to go score, he can do it. But when he has to contribute to like an offense size defense,
I see James Wiseman soon he got with Taj.
What's your role in
I think
this?
that's just I think he can score because he's talented. I don't think he can score because he's got good feel.
Yeah, feel for the game is like understanding the flow of how the game
like
is going.
feel and talent aren't the same thing in my opinion.
Agreed.
Feel.
Also, James Wiseman is still like
feel
athletic
to me is like an inherent understanding of the game of basketball.
Like a Derek Fisher. Like a Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher can understand the basketball game, or like a John Stockton. That's like the understanding of the game.
John Stockton has feel for the game.
Yeah. But then when you go to the other side, you're talking about like
away from just like floor generals.
Yeah.
But like feel like talent is I can do things because I'm
like John Morant
in this way. That
like
I can get away with bad decisions because of my level of talent.
Or
and I think that's where James Wiseman is. James Wiseman has solid touch around the rim, can make face-up jumpers, a tremendous up and down athlete, but feel in terms of how a defense how a defense is treating him, his decision making with the ball in his hands. He's bad at those things.
Okay.
Does Westbrook have feel for the game?
I don't think he's
I see what you mean. Okay.
Westbrook, I can understand saying he has questionable feel for the game, but he's extremely talented.
Westbrook is an
I don't think Westbrook has bad feel for the game, but I can understand someone saying he has questionable feel.
Compared to other all-star point guards, maybe, but compared to the rest of the league, no. It's different.
That's what I'm talking about compared to his standing in the league.
You
call more talent than Phil. Whereas, like, who would I call more Phil than talent? I don't know.
Michael Conley. Michael Conley.
More feel than talent.
John Wall was probably more talent.
Well, Conley is actually very talented. He's low-key very talented.
Josh Giddey.
I thought he had. Wait, hold on. So
Josh Giddey has very good feel for the game.
And then low talent,
I like Caruso.
I didn't say low talent. You said
I said low, like for the low talent. Low.
So you're saying Josh Giddey got feel for the ball?
Draymond's feel for the game is like.
How you feel about?
Oh, that's another good one, Draymond as well.
I think Alex Caruso has
Ish Smith has a strong feel for the game. Drew Holiday has a strong feel for the game.
What about Josh Hart? Does he have a strong feel for the game? Is that like what you're saying, like a guy that gives you a high mode and can be productive, but isn't needed for scoring, but they can contribute in other aspects?
I'd call Josh Hart more motor than Phil.
Okay.
I think Tatum has.
I'm trying to understand it because for me, I think
he's also really always in the right spot consistently throughout the game to make a play.
That nigga wins.
So that's why I'm like, I feel like Josh Hart does have good feel in that aspect. In terms of offense to make plays, nah, but like
he has good feel for where the ball's gonna be.
Yeah,
his feel like sometimes he gets tunnel vision.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Junior, you got echo. Just gotta let you know, Junior.
I'm trying to understand the difference because to me, I can see someone with high talent like Ja Morant, but then when I see someone who has a higher understanding, I look at like a Michael Conley. Because Michael Conley, he knew when to attack the basket, when to control the tempo when he was playing in the playoffs. So I'm just trying to understand that.
When I think of feel for the game, I think of two players,
Lonzo
Ball and Chet.
Lonzo.
Those are like the two players that first come to mind that I first had that thought of watching them. Like they just kind of know how to play on a basic level, regardless of talent.
Someone said Amen Thompson. Okay. Amen Thompson has tremendous feel for the game. Cam Whitmore is tremendously talented. But his feel for the game is all over the place. But he can figure it out. He's young. He'll figure it out.
What about Chris Paul?
Which matters more?
Wait, Chris Paul. Hold on, Cabo. Who just asked that question? What did you ask?
Which matters more, feel or talent?
Which matters more? I think feel without talent can only get you so far. Like there's a clear scene.
I think Tatum has more talent than feel.
It makes you a backup point guard.
I agree. I think you could get higher with if you could only have one. I think you'd get further with talent than you would with feel. But I think if you want to be a great player, like if you want to be top, I think you gotta have.
What about
it depends on where you are. I don't think anyone who doesn't have talent would even make it.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you want to get anywhere, you gotta be talented.
It
wouldn't be in the NBA.
You can have all the feel for the game in the world if you 5'3".
Right, you got
you mean athletic?
But if you 7'1" and a tremendous athlete, you don't have to have feel for the game. You'll get somewhere. You'll be playing overseas. You'll be playing.
What about Cam Thomas?
Talent.
I think
he's not actually bad.
I think he's getting feel.
An interesting
I think he's developing. I think
he's developing feel because he's had a bunch of different like defenses thrown at him this year that he had to like adjust to.
I like they make an improvement. I like to.
Yeah, me too. I like his defensive improvement as well.
I don't like his defense. I don't like his defensive motor.
No, his defensive motor, but I think he's gotten better as a defender.
I agree. Someone said it's Giannis feel or talent. Giannis is more talent than feel, but he has both, and that's why he's a superstar.
Actually, I'd like to have this conversation more with Big.
What about LaMelo Ball?
LaMelo's talent. Lonzo's feel.
I think this conversation is more with Big
too.
LaMelo has good instincts.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree to that then. Okay.
You can see LaMelo just plays off of instincts. LaMelo has better. Okay, this might sound weird. I think LaMelo has better instincts than Tyrese Halliburton, but Tyrese Halliburton has better feel for the game than LaMelo does. I don't know if that
I
makes sense.
can understand that.
Instinct is more
They do an
reactionary
example
based off things that are
in the game.
happening to you versus feel. You kind of understand the flow of the entire game.
Yes.
Yeah, so
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with it. And Bobo is all talent, no feel. There's
all talent.
Yeah, this is what I was
Absolutely
talking about.
none.
I think we should have this conversation more about bigs than guards because every
Facts.
guard has
every guard has that feel for the game in some capacity.
They have to have it. It's just levels. But big
Oh.
men, sometimes you see guys like Paul Ball or like DeAndre
Okay,
Ayton.
so then
They have all talent.
Derek Lively is a great example.
Derek Lively
feel
has
for the
great
game,
feel
too.
for the game. He has great.
He
feel.
has way.
Okay.
I thought he had a talent. Like, okay.
Oh,
now
he's
I'm
talented.
Bro, a lot of young
It's
bigs.
not one. A lot of these guys, it's not one or the other. The one or the
It's
other
both.
players are they're usually just not very good
Yeah.
yet. And
Okay.
I think they either lack
Oh.
talent or lack feel.
So I have one. Trace Jackson Davis.
Both.
Bomb.
We do both.
I'd say both, but I'd say he's higher on the feel scale than he is the talent scale.
I don't
Bro,
know.
a lot of the
Wait,
young
what's
bigs
that
in the
bum?
league have
What's
feel
that
for the
face of
game.
What?
There's not
Young,
many
I mean,
that don't.
Wemby has great feel for the game. Chet has great feel for the game.
As
Um,
Horford,
Wemby,
I
it
feel
strikes
like
me for
Chet
how
had
fast
it
he
as soon
improved.
as he started playing.
Yeah.
I got a $20
more.
I
It
got a
seemed like it
$20
was
made
easy
it.
for Chet.
Yeah, I got to read this $20 super chat from Drink More Water, and that's why I asked if Drink More Water was here because he sent a super chat on Tuesday, but I ended the show abruptly because there was beef going on the playback.
Yeah, sorry
And
about that.
he sent the same super chat again today. I forgot. Okay, Loki, I kind of just finessed Drink More Water out of some more money because what I was gonna say is I actually saved Drink More Water super chat from Tuesday. I was gonna read it today, but I wanted to wait till I saw he was here. So he sent on Tuesday the same question he just sent now. But he said today, he said, although we're in a spaced out era, when are we going to see an influx of stretch bigs drafted? I feel like most of the current floor spacing bigs got drafted pre-2018. Even in this draft, the top two bigs are traditional. And that's pretty similar to what he said on Tuesday. I'll just read out what he said on Tuesday just because I feel like I have to. He said, how come most of the stretch bigs came into the league pre-2018 and not in the more spaced out offense in recent times? And then even in this draft, the top two are more traditional versus floor spacers. I think stretch bigs as a whole, the reason stretch bigs aren't going particularly high in the draft or there isn't an influx of them is because the league, and maybe I'm wrong, I think the league went away from just bigs who can just shoot pretty quickly. I think what the league requires now is versatility. That means you have to, ideally you can shoot, but it's what can you do defensively? Are you switchable? Most stretch bigs were pretty lumbering. We'll just pick and pop, and then we'll have to exclusively play drop Brook Lopez.
Ryan Anderson.
Or you just can't play defense if you're a stretch big. So now it's defensive versatility. On offense, can you put the ball on the floor? Can you make decisions out the short roll? All of those things that goes beyond just being able to shoot the ball. I think now that stretch bigs in this, like I guess Kyle Filipowski would count as a stretch big in this draft, but even he can pass, like he can do other things. I think the league moved very quickly beyond we just need to be able to have bigs who can stretch the floor. Now we need bigs who can put the ball on the ground, can defend multiple positions, can make passes, can play out the high post, can be a hub, all of those things. And Alex I mean, he's not much of a shooter, but I definitely wouldn't call him traditional. He's the modern big. He's the Evan Mobley, Chet type of big. That's not a traditional big. It's just the versatile big is what
the switch big seems like it's more important to the league.
I was gonna say what to.
He froze.
Did he freeze?
Yeah, he froze.
Yeah.
Someone else want to talk?
I did freeze.
Yes, I wanted to.
He's back. He's back.
Go ahead. I just want to say to me, it's based off of the college scheme because if you look at the Europeans, a lot of the Europeans play in different systems to where their bigs can be used as stretch. Plus, in the league here that we have in college, we don't have too many bigs. Like a lot of teams moved away from 4 big men who can do things. Like you have a guy at the 5 and you can move him at the 4. They got away from that and they just focused on having guys who could run the floor. So for me, it's looked like the transition when Steph got in the league. Remember the next 10, 20 years, like everybody's trying to find the next Steph as far as guards. It's happening now with bigs. Because if you see Bam, you see how Wemby is, it's starting to transition now to where you're going to see more floor spacing bigs that do more. I just think the game is changing this late. That's all.
Yeah,
I think I came on the show last week and I asked you why you think the offense is more valuable than defense, and you said offense is more valuable. And I think what I have now is why do you think offense is more valuable than defense, and how much more is offense valuable than defense in your opinion?
It's not.
Are we talking for individuals or for the team?
Individually.
Because I think the way the game is played now, defense is so predicated on the team scheme that it's hard for an individual to raise the floor of that team's defense while also translating it to the postseason. You look at teams like Boston and the T-Wolves to a lesser extent, but mainly Boston. The reason their defense is so good is not because they do have great individual defenders, Drew, Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, etc. But the reason their defense is so good is because their scheme is so potent because of what their personnel was able to do as a collective. That if you just had one of those guys, like if you lose one of those pieces, their defense clearly gets worse because it's so. Defense is like a string. Everyone you have to be on the same. You have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Whereas offense, you can have one person put the ball in their hands, and if they can create good offense for everyone, you can get somewhere as a baseline level. But I think even now that's changing. Players who like we've got past the players who can only spot up and shoot.
Yep.
Their liabilities now offensively.
Duncan Robinson had a tech
All you can do is spot up, and I don't mean come on pin downs or come off DHOs and shoot. I mean spot up. Isaac Okoro, PJ,
and don't move nowhere.
You are defined as a liability now offensively. You can't just be a shooter, especially a stationary shooter. So even offense now has become more of a team concept. You have to be able to command a closeout first of all. Then you have to be able to drive a closeout. Then you have to be able to make decisions against the scrambling defense. All of those things from role players. So even now, I think individual offense is becoming less valuable than it was 7 or 8 years ago, where you could just have one heliocentric player, James Harden, LeBron, or you could have one player who's like the whole system, Steph Curry, and you could just generate a great offense with that. Now I think you have to have great pieces all around to really get a top-end offense that translates from the regular season to the postseason.
So you have to have
that. I hope you're talking about the
If you
playoffs.
have a great offense in both the regular season and postseason, I think so, yes.
I'm saying,
Yeah, I hope you're talking about the playoffs. Like regular season is nothing
In
like.
the regular season, I think you can just have the heliocentric model. But in the postseason, yeah.
But like
I'm
you
gonna
take out the
disagree with you, Morris,
Celtics,
but
you
go
take
ahead.
out the Celtics.
Take out the Celtics.
How many teams is that really a concern for?
I was just gonna say that. That's why I disagree.
Every team in the league.
In the sense that like
when I was
I hear what you're saying. But I feel like the Celtics are a special exception where the offense that you're referring to just won't work. Other than that, there's really no other defense with the same type of personnel and scheme combination where you must need 5 players that can actually create offense to an extent.
But then again,
you look at the best offense. The best offense in the league is the Pacers and the Celtics. Both of them have that.
but what I was gonna say is
multiple guys who can create an advantage. You need advantage creators, and that's going to be your superstars. That's going to be your Lucas, your Trae Youngs, your Stephs, your Jokic, your Tyrese Halliburtons. You need an advantage creator. If you want to have a great offense, you need an advantage creator. But in order for your offense to really be at that height in the postseason, you need guys who can continue that advantage. Luka can create 4-on-3s. But if no one can play out of the 4-on-3 that he's creating, your offense is going to stagnate. The reason the Dallas offense is so potent and the reason it's able to translate is because Derek Lively was able to play make out the short roll in those 4-on-3s. It's because Kyrie is there as a secondary advantage creator. If you take away there was a drastic difference when there was Daniel Gafford in that short roll versus Derek Lively. We've seen it.
Agreed. Yep.
That's no difference to how Luka is. Luka's still creating the advantage, but you need the guy who can capitalize on that and keep an advantage going. That's why I think Derek Lively's, even Kyle Anderson's, they're so valuable because they can keep advantages going. And that's what all these great offenses need in the
They
postseason.
definitely need a baseline of
Their
playmaking.
talent, but because of everyone can create an advantage and continue it. Aaron Nesmith can continue an advantage because he commands closeouts and then he can attack downhill. Obi Toppin is just a vertical spacer. He can space the floor out in transition. He's causing havoc. Miles Turner is one of those stretch bigs who can do more than just shoot threes. So he provides advantage creation. TJ McConnell is persistently driving, getting downhill.
Oh my
so it's more than just Tyrese Halliburton. And I think that's what you need to be a great offense in.
Okay.
I honestly think you guys are wrong because I was going to say this.
Look at this. Would you stop and look at this finals defensively? Did that make you view him worse than you did previously to the finals? Defensively.
Can I just pick on the defense?
No, I just think I think he was just hurt, and Boston have the perfect offense.
Because to me, if teams can consistently hunt Luka's defensive inadequacies, I think, in my opinion, if teams can consistently hunt He should have a coach's defense.
It's not as consistent as people.
I think you guys are wrong.
I think the only teams that could do what Boston did to Luka are Boston and Indiana.
And a lot of it was effort because in Game 4 and Game 5, Luka started putting in more effort, and he started staying in front of people.
Yeah, I think in New York,
let Cowboy say it.
I was just going to say this real quick. The reason why everyone's transitioning more to offense is because you can score a 3-pointer in the first quarter and it automatically contributes to your winning. But if you play defense the first quarter and give up in the fourth, you can still lose the game. So the game is based off of the numbers with offense. So it's easier to look at the offensive side. It's very hard to find a defensive player that's going to give you both defense and offense. Look at Alex Caruso. He can lock down anybody. Look at OG Anunoby. They can create offense from their defense with turnovers, blocks, and steals. But to keep them consistently on the court is the risk. So what the teams did is what Morris said. They'll go out and get 4 or 5 guys that are mid defenders and create a scheme to make it look like it can work. And they're a good defensive team when they're not. But for me, offense and defense should go hand in hand because you can create defense off of offense and offense off of defense.
I agree. But the Luka thing, I don't think he's as bad of a defender as he was in the finals or the postseason.
At all.
He was hurt. He was hurt. His mobility was shot. He's already not the most mobile guy. His mobility was shot. He was clearly not. He was clearly not right. So that part of it that's also why I'm not holding it against him too much. Also, the second part is I kind of knew Boston was gonna do this because they're persistent with they're persistent with their advantage creation. So where Luka was able to thrive before was you could keep a big near the rim because every team he was playing had a non-shooter at some position. You keep a big near the rim and they don't have guys who can continue the advantage. So if Luka's able to funnel guys downhill, it makes his life easier. The reason his defense looked so good against the Clippers is because a big stayed near the rim. That means Luka's able to play high and play onto Paul George or James Harden's jump shots in isolation because if they blow by him, they go into the rim anyway. So Luka's able to make his life easier defensively. That doesn't work against the Boston or Indiana. OKC to a lesser extent, if they actually had consistent floor spacing around Shea and them, that they'd have a similar principle. But if there's only 2 teams that I think can consistently take advantage of Luka defensively, I don't think his defensive shortcomings are as much as a liability as people are making it seem. Now, if you want to win, you're probably going to have to beat Boston. And do I think with Luka's defense, a team like Dallas can beat Boston? No, but I think the bigger problem is offensively, they don't have the pieces. They don't have the advantage continuous that Boston do.
Yeah.
So if Luka's generating advantages, which albeit he didn't generate as many advantages in that series because they were playing him one-on-one, but they were conceding those above the break threes. If they had guys who could either knock down those above the break threes consistently or who could continue the advantage of getting a wide open 3 and then a short closeout, they would have been a better team more than if Luka was a better
on Tecchio to the Mavs.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are harping on Luka's defense and whatever, but at the end of the day, the reason why the Mavs lost was their offense. They weren't able to because
Luka was back.
You know what the scary part is, because the Celtics
had the ball and they wasn't in transition. When Luka was off the court, they weren't in transition, and the offense looked different than when they played against the Timberwolves. Because when they had the Timberwolves, I was looking at the Mavs like, y'all play like this in the finals, y'all gonna win. Because when Luka was off the court, their offense was still the same. It was probably like a -2 points. But then when he came back on, it was probably +4. I'm just throwing out numbers. I'm not saying exactly. I'm just saying the gap isn't that big when they were playing the Timberwolves. But when they played Boston, what stopped them was a defense from Boston, full court pressure on Luka. Luka was getting tired before he got to half court, so he couldn't even set up the offense. And everybody on the team was just standing at the wings. They weren't moving around like they were when Kyrie had the ball with the Timberwolves. That you saw them moving, backdoor cuts, screens, lobs. They weren't doing that with the Boston. That's why I think they lost.
Nassim, go ahead.
I had a question on what were ways that Dallas could have maintained an advantage of attacking certain people, because from what I saw that they could have done that they didn't do was attacking Al Horford much more because he was on the floor much longer than he should have been in that series, but because of KP, being but I feel like was there anybody else that they probably could have attacked to create an advantage? That probably could have won them an extra game, maybe.
I think they had to get the bigs in pick and roll, but what they were because The bigs would usually guard Derrick Jones, and then Tatum would be on the big to take away the lob. So so they end up either trying to get the screen with Tatum, and then he's obviously switching, and you're not really creating advantages of teams switching unless you have a size advantage, but they don't have a post presence. So what they could, I didn't see a lot of double screens, which is where I was confused. I don't know why you wouldn't bring up Al Horford and Tatum, set a double screen. You got Derrick Jones and you got Daniel Gafford or Lively setting the screen. Not only does that just create confusion on who's switching where, then you could flow into that with, you could make that Spain, you can make someone pop out, and even if Derrick Jones isn't a threat to pop out, but then you can now flow into, you got 3 on one side, so now you got empty side of Kyrie on the other side. You could just, like, you're forcing Boston to have to think about their switching. If you're just if you're just coming up setting one ball screen and you know they're going to switch, and then I remember one slip. That's it. I remember one slip from the series. Derek Lively slipped the screen, and he ended up getting an and one. There wasn't enough slips. Slip the screens. They're going to switch.
Because the thing was, nobody flips the screens anymore, Mars. I agree with that. A lot of people don't do that.
I saw, because the one thing that I was watching too, especially because Derrick Jones Jr. would not shoot the ball. The one thing that you do want to do, if you are going to pass the ball, go cut. Like, you're on the go cut. Like, especially when the big is on you, go cut. And as well as because this is like, all you had to do was just look back 2 years ago. They was making them play drop every time, making those bigs go play through screens. And especially because of how many shots that Luka was taking, why not have you and Kyrie just go take turns on scoring on the bigs?
I don't think they could have attacked Al Horford as much as people think they could have.
You can.
Like,
I
don't think they're athletic enough.
He has good feel. He has good feel.
Every basket, well, not every basket, but a lot of the baskets that Luka or Kyrie had when they were going against Al, he was still on their hip.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't leaving him. He was right there with them because they're not that athletic.
That's
the difference is in the what series was that in 2022 with Steph? Steph is fast enough to leave Al Horford. Like, he's leaving.
It's not really fast enough.
Al Horford is on Luka's hip the whole thing. Whatever Luka does, Al Horford is right next to him. They're not fast enough.
The thing is, with the difference, which I get why it wouldn't work to the full extent like that, is because they didn't want Steph to shoot. Like, you're gonna give up a drive to Steph. The thing is with Kyrie though, on why that could still work is because they did dare Kyrie to shoot a lot more mid ranges than usually, but also with Kyrie, it was more times than not. Kyrie, whenever they did do a screen, they never did a screen to where he switched on to a big. He switched on to another wing. Same thing with Luka. With Luka, he got his switches to the big. Kyrie not really much did. So that's why it didn't work out as much. And Kyrie seemed to look a lot worse than he did.
I mean, they really only had like one big at all times. I mean, it's either Horford or
yeah. So you either have to.
Oh yeah, a little bit of Tillman. I forget. And he had like one good defensive possession. I mean, ultimately, like what Mar said earlier, they just didn't have enough playmakers over around. I like what they did in Game 4 is that they pushed the pace a lot. That was like the most they pushed the pace in the entire finals. And they were like, okay, we just can't let your defense get set. So we're going to keep on pushing the pace and try to get as best a shot as we can. And I thought they did a very good job. They played very fast. Kyrie was more he just went. He didn't try to break him down. He just went. And I think that was the best time that their offense performed overall. It was going to be hard to maintain because that's not what they do. And I also think that Jason Kidd moving forward, which I like what you said earlier, is that Jason Kidd is an amazing defensive coach, defensive schemer. I do think he needs to get creative, a little bit more creative in terms of his offensive schemes because there is a lot of standing around. I think he tried some with off-ball Luka. I think he tried some with some double screens. Not a lot happened, but some. But he's not creative enough in terms of offense and using everybody and making them move and not just stand there. It has to be more than just screen Kyrie, screen Luka, and make them work. Because, yes, Luka's generational offensive player. Kyrie's an amazing scorer. But against the Celtics, you need more than that.
Yeah.
I I think they
did
needed
like
to
them
put more
using. I
pressure
did
on the
like them
rim.
using Luca as a screener though. Like, there was
I
a couple
did too.
times I like that.
I like the idea of that too.
That was nice.
I
I
think
just
they
think
needed to put more pressure on the rim also.
Can I say
With the
something
But
way
then,
that
before we
but
go
Kyrie.
see,
to
that's the
playback?
thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
That's
got
one of
Let
the
let let
disadvantages.
Amir say what he's gonna say before we go to
Yeah,
playback.
because I might
We'll
not
read all the super
actually
chats
go
I
to
have on
playback.
playback. Read all the super chats I have on playback.
So yeah, I think the problem that most people are overlooking with this series is that the Celtics were actually underperforming offensively. So the Mavs were, yes, they were playing not so bad defense, but they were getting away with a lot of things that the Celtics usually knock down. And on the other hand, you cannot, like Rodell said, that's a point I was going to raise. You cannot beat the Celtics in a half-court offense. You have to push the base. But there is another part of it, and it's the fact that the Celtics have this weird thing that most teams are looking for big men that can defend guards. The Celtics have guards and wings that can defend bigs. And it's a weird thing because their guards are all like oversized, their guards and wings. And it's not just the size, but also the positioning and the way like their timing is so perfect. So there is nothing. I don't think the getting bigs outside would even work because they did that a lot. Like I saw Derek White have like 3 blocks on one game. Jaylen Brown had like 3 blocks on one game. And it's not just the blocks because even when they were not getting blocks, they were still rim protecting. Derek White was rim protecting. Drew Holiday was rim protecting. Jaylen Brown was rim protecting. So I don't think this Celtics team, when it comes to defense, has any flaws. It's just that they need a team that is way more talented offensively. Like a team like the Nuggets would probably be the only team I could see having a series that they would need to change schemes for. That's
I
why I
think
don't
it's the
like
Wolves too.
2022. Just let me finish. That's why I don't
Oh
like
my
the
bad.
2022 example because the Warriors were getting away with having Draymond Green and Kevon Looney on the floor. That's one more guy than the Mavs could afford, and they were still not working. So it's a completely different team. You cannot play Green and Looney on the floor against this team, no matter who the 3 guys are with them. You cannot do that against this Celtics team and win. I
But
don't think that.
you don't
I
think
don't
that
think switching
We
switching
got
would.
to go to
all right.
playback. So
So let
everyone, I appreciate
me
everyone who's watching on YouTube. I hope to see you on playback. I will read everyone who sent a super chat. I will read them all on playback. Go over there now. Request to join the stage if you want to come up. We will continue this conversation. We'll get back to the draft, all of that. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on playback in about 20 seconds. I'll say 20 seconds. Goodbye, everyone.